The diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge hung in the void between stars, its hull reflecting the cold light of distant suns. Inside, Jack Matthews stood at the observation deck, watching the approaching Krillex refugee ship with careful eyes. His hand rested on the plasma pistol at his hip, not out of hostility, but out of habit. 20 years in the colonial marines had taught him that preparedness kept people alive. "They're terrified," Emma Chun said softly beside him, her fingers dancing across her datapad as she reviewed the latest scans. As the ship's xenobiologist and cultural liaison, she'd spent the last 3 weeks studying everything available about the Krillex species. What she'd learned had broken her heart. The Krillex were a feline-like species, barely 4 feet tall when fully grown, with luminous amber eyes and fur that shifted colors with their emotions. Their homeworld had been consumed by the Vorton Collective just 6 months ago. Out of a population of 3 billion, fewer than 50,000 had escaped. "Intel says there are cubs aboard," Jack murmured, his jaw tight. "Orphans from the initial attacks. No parents. No family units? Just ... survivors?" Emma's grip tightened on her datapad. She'd read the reports. Krillex cubs were raised communally, with multiple adults sharing caretaking duties. The loss of their social structure was devastating to their psychological development. These children had watched their world burn, watched their families die, and now floated through space with nothing but trauma and each other. "We're their first contact with humanity," Emma said. "We need to get this right." Jack nodded, his weathered features softening slightly. "Then we will." The docking procedure took 45 minutes. When the airlock finally hissed open, Jack and Emma stood at the head of a carefully selected, welcoming committee: medical staff, supplies officers, and a handful of soldiers, who'd been specifically chosen for their ability to project calm rather than threat. The first Krillex adult to emerge was clearly the group's leader, an older female with graying fur and eyes that held oceans of grief. Her fur rippled with muted blues and grays, colors that Emma's research indicated meant deep sadness and exhaustion. "I am Elder Sherix," the Krillex said through the translation device hanging from her neck, her voice a melodic purr despite the tremor running through it. We are grateful for sanctuary." "You're safe here," Emma said gently, stepping forward with her hands visible and open, a universal gesture of peace. "I'm Emma Shen, and this is Jack Matthews. We're here to help you however we can." Behind Elder Shyrix, more Krillex emerged. Adults moved with the slow, shell-shocked movements of people who'd seen too much. But it was the cubs that made Emma's breath catch, 12 of them, ranging from what appeared to be toddler age to young adolescents, clustered together in a tight group. Their fur blazed with colors Emma's research had marked as aggression displays: bright reds, sharp oranges, spikes of electric yellow. But their eyes told a different story. Wide, dilated, ringed with white, the universal marker of fear across dozens of species, the largest cub. A male with distinctive black stripes across his russet fur stepped forward. He couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 in human years. His small chest puffed out, and his tiny claws extended as he positioned himself between the human delegation and the younger cubs. "We are not afraid of you," the cub announced, his voice cracking slightly. His fur flashed aggressive crimson, but his tail, which Emma knew was an involuntary indicator of emotional state, was tucked tight against his legs. "We are Krillex. We are brave. We will protect our pod." Behind him, the other cubs tried to mirror his stance. A tiny female, no more than 4, bared teeth no bigger than rice grains, and made a sound that was probably meant to be a growl, but came out as a squeak. Jack's hand moved slowly away from his weapon, raising both palms. Emma felt her heart shattering as she looked at these babies, these traumatized children trying so desperately to be strong, to be fierce, to protect each other because every adult they'd trusted had failed them or died. "You are brave," Emma said softly, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. She took a slow step forward, then lowered herself to one knee, bringing herself down to the cub's eye level. "You are so brave. You've survived things that would break most beings. You've stayed together, protected each other, You've crossed the stars to find safety. The lead cub's aggressive display faltered slightly, his fur flickering between red and confused purple. Emma continued, her voice gentle but clear. But you know what the bravest thing of all is? Knowing when you don't have to fight anymore. She opened her arms slowly, telegraphing the movement. You're safe now. You don't have to be strong all by yourselves. You can rest. For a moment, nothing happened. The cubs stood frozen, their programming warring with their desperate, aching need. Emma could see it in every tense line of their small bodies, the desire to collapse, to be small, to be cared for, fighting against the terror that had taught them. Trust meant death? Then the tiny female who tried to growl made a sound, a broken, hiccuping sob that shattered the last of Emma's composure. The cub took one stumbling step forward, then another. It's okay, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe. The dam broke. The little female rushed forward and crashed into Emma's chest, her small body shaking with sobs as her fur flashed through a rainbow of distress colors. Within seconds, the other cubs followed, their brave facades crumbling as they piled into Emma's arms, climbing onto her shoulders, pressing against her sides. Desperately seeking the comfort they'd been denied for so long, Emma held them all, or as many as she could, wrapping her arms around the sobbing, trembling mass of traumatized children. She made soft shushing sounds, rocking gently, feeling their small claws digging into her uniform. As they clung to her like drowning victims to driftwood, the lead cub was the last to move. He stood alone for a long moment, his aggressive display finally fading to show the exhausted, terrified child beneath. His fur cycled through confused colors before finally settling on a deep, vulnerable blue. Jack, who'd remained standing, slowly knelt beside Emma. He didn't reach out, not yet, but he extended one weathered hand. Palm up, an invitation rather than a demand. The cub looked at that hand for a long moment. Then, with a sound that might have been a word or might have been a sob, he stumbled forward and collapsed against Jack's chest. The soldier's arms came around him immediately, holding him with the practiced gentleness of someone who understood exactly how fragile strength could be. I've got you. Little warrior, Jack murmured, his voice rough. You did so good. You kept them safe. But I've got you now. Around them, the adult Kruleks were openly weeping, their fur showing colors of grief mixed with relief and desperate gratitude. Elder Shyrix approached slowly, her own eyes streaming. We tried, she whispered. We tried to comfort them, but they would not, could not. Different species, different needs, Emma said gently, still holding the cubs who clung to her. Sometimes it takes an outsider to give permission to fall apart. The elder nodded slowly. Humans are not what the collective told us you would be. Jack looked up, his expression hard despite the gentleness with which he held the cub. What did they tell you? That you were predators, violent, dangerous. Elder Shyrix's fur rippled with dark humor. They were not entirely wrong. But they failed to mention that human predators protect their own with a ferocity that makes the universe tremble. Emma felt the cubs beginning to calm in her arms, their sobs quieting to hitched breathing and occasional hiccups. Their fur was slowly shifting from distress colors to softer, more peaceful hues, pale blues and gentle greens. These cubs are packed now, Jack said, and there was steel in his voice that made it a declaration and a promise. Any threat to them answers to humanity. The collective will learn that lesson in time. Yes, Elder Shyrix agreed, and for the first time, Emma saw something fierce and hopeful flash in the old Krulex's eyes. I believe they will. Later, after the cubs had been settled into the medical bay with soft beds and warm food, and more humans than they knew what to do with, all offering comfort and care, Emma found Jack in the observation deck again. Command is not going to like your declaration of protection, she said. Though she was smiling, Jack shrugged, his eyes on the stars. Command can file a complaint. Those kids needed to know they mattered, that someone would fight for them. They tried so hard to be brave, Emma murmured. They are brave, Jack corrected. But brave doesn't mean not needing help. It means knowing when to accept it. Emma nodded, leaning against the viewport. Somewhere in the ship, 12 small aliens were sleeping peacefully for the first time in months, secure in the knowledge that someone bigger and fiercer than them stood watch, and in the greater galaxy, word would spread as it always did of the human species that took in orphans and made them family. The species that met aggression displays from traumatized, cubs with open arms and gentle promises, the Vorton Collective would learn. In time, what it meant to threaten something humanity had claimed as its own, but that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, 12 cubs were safe, and that was enough.